Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I hope you all enjoy tonight's episode. Speaking of tonight's episode, of Ysterra the Far Horizon, Kay, I think it's time for a bit of a recap. Please, proceed.
Let's do this. So this is a little bit messy. You'll see a bit of my brain processes. This is almost what my notes look like, one for one. So we begin. We open. It is nighttime. The 3 moons are up in the sky. Ignore the water. I found a cliffside, but I couldn't find one without water. We are in the ship. We are sleeping. Everyone is having a pretty restless time. They're not having a great night's sleep, except... You know who's having the worst? Mira. Mira is having a terrible, terrible sleep. Dreams of heartache. She is beginning to cry as she falls back to sleep before she can really examine her feelings. In the morning, Bren and Ren are especially suspicious and especially grumpy. And then Bren gives Mira some local history books. And I think it was supposed to be more of a gift, but Mira was like... You know, this is a task I have to complete for the ship. And, she's having a rough night. That's fine. Adi and Sisk managed to convince Mira to have a good time. We're going to go into town. The family of Nora, Taryn, and Dove are excited to also go into Atarak. There is as we're heading into town, we pass a young bronze dragonborn who we clock, but we don't say anything about because that's... Why would we? We're going into town. Next, shopping time. Overall, Adi gets a cute orange shirt, and Mira finds something that reminds her of her mom. Oriana, when we get back, very uncomfortable and closed off, won't share what's going on. Mira sneaks off with her injured hand. Remember, she touched an ascendant crystal thing and got burned arcanically. She then tries something we hadn't tried yet, cure wounds. It ends poorly. She feels like she is re-burning her hand from the beginning. When the Mira passes out for about 30 minutes, we make an executive decision to take her to the Temple of Itharion, the dragon ascendant of the Forge. We can't locate Bren or Ren before we left, which probably why I was suspicious. We get to the Temple of Itharion. Protesters are stationed outside the temple, as is the Dragonborn that we made main character eye contact with before. That guy was Shugo. He grabs Mira and leads us into the temple. It's really cool inside, but what's really neat is that he gets into the main hall area and he goes, "Artisan priest, you are beckoned." In Draconic, I think? I can't remember. It was something.
It was Draconic, yes.
And then I don't know if the artisan priest appears before or after. Sisk made a friend who said that they like Tig. Then the artisan priest appears. His name is Kelisnor. And that's where we're at. And everything is really good. We're going to get Mira healed. Nothing has gone wrong. We're ready.
I love that someone indicating how much they love Tig is the most important thing out of all of this. I don't think anyone can object to that. So thank you so much, Kay, for the end. Nice. Thank you so much, Kay, for that lovely, lovely bit of background and history, that walk down memory lane. Very much appreciated. Who's next? I don't know. Is it Deb? Deb, are you next? I think Deb's next.
I'm pretty sure it's my turn.
On the list. So, looking forward to that. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin tonight's session, I should probably change the music. Let's do that. As we begin tonight's session, we find ourselves returned to the Temple of Itharion. Inside, or I should say outside the Temple of Itharion, there was a great deal of turmoil. There are still protesters standing about, doing their protesting thing, although it isn't quite clear what it is exactly they're protesting about. It seems like they're protesting the existence of this temple, and or the existence of Dragonborn amongst the populace. Regardless, it's not a pleasant thing to experience. But inside of the temple isn't significantly better. There are a great many people gathered inside of the temple. It seems to be acting in many ways as a refuge of sorts. Quite a number of Dragonborn were present as you all made your way inside. Not the least of which was Chugo Terathos, a blue Dragonborn warrior in service to the temple, very likely also a smith of some caliber, as that seems to be not necessarily a requirement for service to Vitharion, but something that is often handled by those that dedicate themselves to Vitharion. Terathos took it upon themselves very quickly to summon forth Kelesnor, the priest, quite possibly the highest ranked priest in all of this temple. Recognizing the urgency of the situation with Mira, seeing the direness upon everyone else's faces, it was readily apparent that this needed Kelesnor's attention. And as Kelesnor starts descending down the immense staircase that leads up into the upper echelons of the temple, and all of you are being led up. Of course, Tig has no problems carrying Mira into this situation, but I feel like the rest of you are probably a little bit winded, a little bit out of breath. Not necessarily a full level of exhaustion or anything like that at this point, but your expedience to get here was difficult, to say the least. I am curious, because we really didn't get to it as we concluded our last episode. We'll start with you, Sisk. What is your response to these events? Or, at the very least, what is going through Sisk's mind as all of this is unfolding?
I think I'm feeling pretty hopeful. I am, I think, in a place where I just don't want to get in the way. Yeah, I'm gonna wait at the bottom of the stairs unless 80 shoots me a look, but this is an intimate thing, I think, so.
Well, that does beg the question. You say waiting at the bottom of the stairs, but Tig is not at the bottom of the stairs. Tig is following Terathos. So are you following Tig, or are you just letting Tig handle it?
Tig can handle it.
Okay. What about 80?
Oh, she's following along. There's no question. I do think that she would look back, and if Sisk is gonna stay there, I think she would just sort of give a quick glance. You can come if you want, and then she would just keep going, not waiting for an answer.
I'll follow. I'll take a minute to catch my breath, but I'll try to get up there.
Yeah, and catching your breath is not an impediment to you in this situation. It's just more emblematic of the circumstance than anything else. As the two of you flanking Tig, carrying Mira, who is somewhat delirious through this, coming in and out of consciousness from the sheer devastation of the pain. It is worth mentioning, because I think I had forgotten to mention this before, Mira is suffering from an additional level of exhaustion post the attempt at magical healing. And though she didn't suffer any additional ability damage, the ability damage that she still has, along with the exhaustion, kind of beleaguers her at this point. And so realistically, Mira doesn't have a lot of coherence to the situation. But I am curious, Deb, if you could relay for us, under that circumstance, what do you think is happening inside of Mira's mind with whatever consciousness she is able to manifest?
I think it's a lot of fear, and I think if she was coherent enough, she'd be verging on a bit of a panic attack, because she had expected to feel marginally better, and the fact that every time she tries to cast any magic, it doesn't, it goes very poorly. And she has spent the last decade of her life pursuing magic, and she doesn't know who she is without it. And so the thought of having this happen every time she does magic again terrifies her.
Yeah. Do you think that because this is a sanctified holy place, do you think that since coming into the Temple of Etherion, there's been any change for her?
She knows that people who serve in places like this are generally quite competent at what they do. And so I think she is probably aware enough to know that they're taking this urgently and seriously. And so that probably relieves a little bit of her immediate stress, and knows that something is gonna happen to address what's happening to her. But she's also a little suspicious of religious places too. And so I think there's just a lot of unsurety and a willingness to trust this group because she doesn't have any options, but a little bit of hesitancy behind it as well.
I think all of that is perfectly valid and understandable in the situation. As Mira is being carried up, and as the rest of you are following Tig, Tig is, of course, executing to the utmost perfection that they can muster in the circumstance. I think there's an interesting scenario here, though, Kay, that I would like for you to document. Because Tig does have consciousness. Tig has personality. Tig is sentient in not necessarily the way that Sisk is sentient, but in their own way. And so there's an element to this that I think is going to be rooted in Tig's mind, that Sisk might even be feeling, strangely enough, emotions of. Because the last time that Tig had to carry a crew member like this, it was when they were carrying the dead bodies of their former crew and burying them under stones in the mountains of the Imperium from which the airship had crashed. Or from whence the airship had crashed. So, while those thoughts and potentially emotions are not affecting Tig or preventing them from doing what needs to be done, I feel like there's some element of bleeding, so to speak, psychological bleeding, that is occurring, potentially into Sisk's mind as well. Something to keep in mind. As you are led up the stairs, Kelesnor, immediately recognizing the situation, beckons you all forward, and there seems to be a distinct seriousness with which Kelesnor takes this. But you would also note, particularly 80, I feel in this situation, would note that Kelesnor is as calm, cool, and collected as anyone could possibly be in this circumstance. Kelesnor exudes confidence and leadership. And if Mira were aware enough, although I'm not sure that that's possible given her current state, she would be able to recognize a person that is supremely connected to their ascendant upon which they worship. Not too dissimilar from Mira's own connection with her ascendant. But there's still a difference there. As you all follow Kelesnor, Terathos is with you, and he moves up. I feel like he moves up beside Sisk. Beth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 80 is probably experiencing a bit more stress than Sisk is in this situation, and is not necessarily doing a good enough job of exuding an air of, confidence in the circumstance.
No, she is not. She generally is, pretty good, has a good, poker face, and can manage her own emotions. But this is a little bit different because the connection through their twin bond is particularly strong, and what she's being fed off of it is a lot for her to deal with. And then, of course, bouncing off her own feelings. And then I think also, since she can feel how level-headed folks are being in here, I think she feels like it's a pass to allow herself to feel how she's really feeling and not have to mask it as much as she might normally.
I think it's also quite possible that she wouldn't be able to mask it.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So Sisk is probably, of this group, exuding the most air of not necessarily authority, but would be the one that Terathos immediately approaches as you are all ascending the stairs. And Terathos, not in a quiet voice per se, not trying to keep his comment from anyone else, but quiet enough and ensuring that Sisk can hear it. Terathos would lean over to Sisk as you are all ascending the stairs and say, Kelesnor will have questions for you. Under the circumstances, please do your best to be as detailed as you possibly can. If we are going to help your friend, it will be necessary to know as much information as possible.
I wish the person who went with her was here, but I will do my best.
Do what you can. Kelesnor will be as adept as he can in the circumstance, but whatever information he requests, do not hold it back, as I can assure you that will not work out well for your friend. And as you all continue up the stairs, you are immediately led into a very large personal chamber. You can see very clearly a number of bookcases with books and papers scattered about. You actually see several different very high angle tilted work desks that have drawings upon them of, one of them has a suit of armor on it. Another has this massive maul-like weapon being drawn, the diagram of it drawn out. Another has a very ornate-looking structure with like trees around it to give scale, that it's not very large, looking almost like a shrine of some kind. But all of these schematics are scattered about over the course of perhaps a half a dozen different work tables. And then in the center of the room, you see an anvil. And sitting upon the anvil is a massive blacksmith's hammer, the head of which is probably the size of 80's own head. Something that 80 probably would notice very quickly, given her experience in a blacksmith's workshop, and gawk at the notion that this man is capable of lifting it and using it to forge. You can see that there are a few other implements common to a blacksmith's shop around, but there is no forge itself. The head of the hammer glows with an immense heat, and where it rests upon the anvil, you can see waves of heat rising off of the anvil. There is a blade sitting upon the anvil as well, and you can see that where the blade is resting upon the anvil is gorgeously orange and red, as if the anvil itself and the hammer itself have the capacity to be the forge. Adjacent to that is a quenching trough. Above, you actually see a very large opening in the ceiling, and you can feel and even see, probably from the bit of smoke that rises up and the waves of heat, this air current that seems to pull all of that up into the rafters and through the opening in the ceiling. You see another desk kind of off to the side, not very well organized, certainly, but definitely well accompanied with quite a number of writing implements and such. But what catches your eye the most, more than any of all of this, is that surrounding the anvil is an immense carving into the stone and wooden floor that makes up this upper level of the temple, covered in runes, some of them alight with magic, others not. And at the center, where the anvil sits in the middle, you see an immense carving of a two-dimensional dragon's head, as if viewed from the side. And whether you are religious or not, whether you have your own connections to the Ascendant or not, you can feel the enormity of that scene. You can feel it just from walking into the room. This space in particular, while the entirety of the temple is of course sanctified, this space has a personal significance to a man that is utterly devout in their beliefs, in their abilities. And as you are led into this room, Kalesnor steps towards the anvil, places a hand down upon the circle, this massive 15-foot diameter circle that surrounds the anvil, and utters an incantation, a prayer, almost. And as he does, you actually see the floor starting to change shape within the circle. And a single person bed, cot, more like, starting to rise up out of the floor, as if he is fabricating it. just from his prayer. And as it rises up, he turns and looks back towards the lot of you, focusing on Tig, and says, "Place her here, please. We need to examine. Whoever knows the most of the situation, now would be the time for you to inform me as to what has happened." And I'm assuming that Tig, without question, comes over and places Mira's body. As Mira's body lays down in this bed, Mira feels reprieve from her pain. It isn't like snapping a finger and the pain is gone, but it is reprieve. The holiness, the sanctification, all immediately takes hold upon her. I will allow you, Deb, to roll an additional wisdom saving throw. And it is worth mentioning that you do have quite a number of advantages to use.
I got a 15.
Okay. Fortunately, that's not enough to become fully present in the scene. But I will say, it is enough for Mira to be mostly aware of what's happening around her. Even if she can't necessarily get through the fog of things to respond to direct questions, she has an awareness, at the very least, of it all. Now the question is, Beth and Kay, who would be the first to respond to Kellinor's request for information?
How much does 80 know? I don't know. Do you feel confident?
No, she doesn't. I think she would probably just start talking, not knowing what else to do, but like it would be information that's not entirely helpful, like she's this many years old, and we're twins, and she's allergic to strawberries, and
this is not
just
quite
like start
helping,
going
80.
through.
Thank you. Thanks, 80. That's enough. So obviously we're not from here. We've been staying on the cliff near town. 80, or this is Mira. She went towards a big red crystal on a nearby cliffside. She went with someone, and apparently they got up close. It was very powerful, and she touched it. And the amount of ascendant power, I'm not sure what ascendant power, went through her. It hurt her very badly. She is, I'd say she's kind of a favorite of Orlumis, so I think he protected her a little bit, but she's still not good. She tried to heal herself and cast a healing wounds spell, and passed out. So we figured enough was enough, and we need some help.
As you say that, Kellinor's has placed a hand upon Mira's forehead, and you can see that he is attempting to use some kind of a magic, not to heal, but to try to gather some additional information about things. As he is doing that, as you are responding with all of this, he's logging the information, but you can tell very clearly that there is a small amount of confusion upon his face with some of the things that you have said. To answer the question in chat, yes, Kellior is an Earth Genasi. And as he is looking at you in particular, Sisk, and moving his attention back and forth, he's looking at 80, he's looking down at Mira periodically as you're discussing. And then when you bring up a couple of the things that you mention, he does look back to Terathos. And Terathos actually has stepped forward, is staying close, and Terathos actually turns to you, Sisk, and says, "You mean the golden crystals of light upon the plateau? Is that what you're referring to?"
I guess that I didn't really notice them. Apparently, they were interesting enough to go and take a look at.
These are the ones that are close to your airship. And
Not very far.
Terathos turns and looks back at Kelisnor, who kind of nods, and Kelisnor says to you, "You said that they were red. We have never known them to be red. You saw this with your own eyes, or was this relayed to you?"
Can I ask a Miko question? I don't
Yeah.
remember myself. Were they red?
No.
100. No, that was just a miss.
But I'm letting you run with it
Perfect.
because it makes perfect sense that Sisk would potentially make that kind of mistake. So,
Yeah. I think so. As I said, I didn't really notice them. I think I would have noticed something big and red. Maybe I just thought it was evil. So that's what. Maybe it wasn't red.
That cannot be. The crystals of light are a holy place.
Would it harm her so badly if she...
No. Pilgrims have ventured to that place for generations, seeking further connection to the ascendants of light. Loomis being one of them. You say that your friend is a dedicant to Orlumis. It is understandable then that they were drawn to that place, but it does not... I cannot comprehend by what means they would have been injured by such an experience. And Kelisnor turns his attention back to Mira, and you can see that the magic that is coming from his hand, it isn't necessarily working. 80 would probably be able to ascertain this easily enough. It isn't working to the extent that he wants it to. He turns and looks back to Terathos. Go and retrieve from the vault the mithril case. I think we need to employ our most powerful magics now. We don't have enough information to go any other route. And Terathos goes wide-eyed for a moment and then nods their head and turns to leave. As Kelisnor does this, his magic ends. And as his magic ends, Mira, how do I describe this? She doesn't relive the event, but immediately the event pops into her mind of being drawn to the crystal, of placing her hand upon the crystal. And so there's a moment here, Deb, where I feel like you have an opportunity for we'll call it a short utterance. What do you think Mira might babble out given her current state and the circumstances?
I think she, having this pop into her mind again, and still feeling some of the like pain in her hand and things. I think she doesn't want to relive it at all. And so the 80 would feel a spike of panic again. And Mira just says, no, 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 no. And just kind of tries to curl up a little bit because she wants to block it all out.
As she curls up, she calms when Kelesnor places one of his very massive hands upon her shoulder and the other perhaps on, because I'm assuming that she curls up like onto her side. So one hand on her shoulder, one hand maybe on her knee, and just doesn't restrain her, but the force of which he exudes is enough to calm her in that moment, and the visions of what she had disappear, along with perhaps falling back into a little bit of incoherence. 80 and Sisk would be able to tell almost immediately what happens there, and see very clearly the look of concern on Kelesnor's face. Kelesnor doesn't say anything.
Can I ask what your most powerful magics are?
Well, at this moment, what I can offer would be some restoration magics. And all we can do is hope that it will be enough to at least alleviate some of what is affecting your friend. But given the fact that I am unable to discern exactly what malady she has, I cannot make promises. I can only offer hope that it will work.
Hope's enough?
I am curious about something. Erithos will return shortly, but in the time that we do have, can you tell me, did you notice anyone else in proximity to the holy site before your friend was afflicted?
I think there were like silhouettes of people in the golden, what were they called?
Pardon?
That's what's this guy, the golden.
Oh, the golden crystals of light.
Yes, the golden crystals of light. There seem to be like silhouettes of people within them. There had been, when we had been coming down, was it, we had seen a bronze dragonborn? I don't know if that's bizarre. He had been coming to check out our ship, but we didn't.
Were they in proximity to the crystals?
They were near our ship, so I didn't see them near the crystal, but.
All right. The silhouettes. Do either of you, and then gestures to Tig as well, or any of you for that matter, did any of you get a better look than just the notion of figures in the proximity?
No. I don't think so.
I don't know that Tig would be able to tell me, but Tig, do you remember anything?
Tig just shakes their head no.
Okay, I guess not. Well, we do have another companion who had gone with her when this incident happened. We need to find him, I think. That's
that would be
step.
Helpful.
Absolutely. So, does Mira have to stay here with you? Is that the best?
I am hopeful that the restorative magics will not take long to take effect, but given we don't know what the situation is, I cannot say for certain what will be necessary. I am assuming that this will be something not easily fixed. How long has it been since it transpired?
So, like, overnight? 3? It's been 3 days? 3 days.
These burns are very reminiscent. Someone who placed their hand in a forge. Don't know of very many things that can have that amount of heat outside of a forge. Certainly not near us. Whoever has been treating the wound seems to have a good understanding of burns themselves. Was that any of you?
No, it was, we have a blacksmith on board, I think 80's mentor, so he is pretty well versed in burn-related injuries, I guess.
That makes a great deal of sense then. I would very much like to meet this person, should it become possible. But I do understand not everyone will want to present themselves in our temple. I am curious. Why did you come here?
I mean, we're not from here. We don't harbor any ill will or preconceived notions about Dragonborn. And honestly, we're pro-Dragonborn, pro-dragon, really, I think. We are good friends with Ysterra.
As you say Zyra's name, his eyes widen and his expression changes a little bit. Interesting. You are the companions that Ysterra sent me a missive about then.
Yeah, I most likely. She has sponsored us, basically let us escape the bureaucracy to come and enjoy your beautiful city.
I am pleased to hear then that you are friends with one of my closest allies as well. Under these circumstances, I very much hope that whatever transpires here, we can aid your friend. We will aid your friend to the best of our abilities, but we can aid them enough that perhaps they can provide us with a more accurate understanding of what transpired. And as he says that, Terathos comes back into the room, and you can see that Terathos has in his hand a very large, it's about maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet long case, maybe a foot deep and a foot tall, solid mithril box. You can see the multiple kinds of steel and mithril that have been woven through the forging of this box as they form an almost smoke-like pattern throughout the surfaces of it. There is a very large lock on the very front. And although you are certain that it has a lid of some kind, you see no seam around the top of it. And as he comes in, Terathos is a pretty stalwart-looking individual, and you can see that he is straining a little bit under the weight of carrying this case. And as he brings it in, he moves over. He one-hands it for a brief moment and then utters a prayer as he reaches out and takes the hammer off of the anvil. And like almost with a fairly immense thud, it does land upon the ground or the floor beside the anvil as he tries his best to one-handed slow its descent, and doesn't do a tremendously good job of that, but enough to prevent it from causing any significant damage. And then he slides the case onto the anvil. As he does that, Kellisnor, who is still standing with Mira, by the way, has not moved, simply glances over his shoulder at Terathos and utters a prayer. And as he utters that prayer, you see the lock, the very obvious lock that probably, or that has like a keyhole, and you would estimate that there's some kind of a key for it. You see it glow and morph and change to a dragon's head, not too dissimilar from the one that is carved into the floor around the anvil. And as it does that, you see a glowing beam of light start to emanate, forming a seam around the lid. And it just pops open ever so slightly. Kellisnor looks at Terathos and says, "The amethyst bag will be necessary." And as Terathos opens the lid, you can see that within the case itself is a massively thick layer of metal. Very different from the mithril shell of the case. I think Sisk, given what his understanding of metallurgy is and the fact that he made Tig, would recognize a 1-inch thick layer of adamantine around the inside of the case. Within, you see several pouches, all of them of various colors, all of them made from the scales of what are probably dragonkind. Not necessarily dragons themselves per se, perhaps dragonborn, but all of the pouches are scaled. And he reaches in and pulls out one that shimmers with this almost ethereal-looking effervescence of purple light as it catches all of the light of the room and reflects that light. Terathos reaches over, hands it to Kellisnor, who for the first time takes his hand off of Mira's knee, retrieving the bag. And as he opens the bag, he pours from the pouch into his other hand this glorious amount of dust. This crystalline-looking, prismatic-colored dust that you would recognize as powdered diamond. And he pours just a massive pile of it into his hand. Gets done, hands the pouch back, and starts pouring that dust from one hand, the palm of one hand, into the palm of another. And as he pours it back and forth between his palms, he drifts it over Mira's body and utters a prayer. You can see the magic, the flame of his chest glowing, still pulsing with his own heart. You can see his eyes changing from their very likely natural red hue into blue and purple and various colors as he continues this prayer. He's putting a great deal of effort into this restoration spell. You see beads of sweat start flowing down from the top of his head, down his face, into his beard. Wherever a bead drops onto his chest, it sizzles with the heat rising off of his chest. And the more that he prays, the more that he utters this, The dust that drifts over Mira begins to glow. Mira, would you please make another wisdom saving throw? I do believe that's a natural 20. For a total of 22, I think. Great.
Yes, that's correct. I couldn't get my mouse to work, so I couldn't unmute. But yes, 22.
With that 22, I would like for you to describe for us what it is like in this moment as Mira becomes fully coherent. All of her ability damage is gone, and one level of the exhaustion that she had also disappears.
It is, she feels very much like she did in the clearing where the diamond dragon was reborn and she met with Orlumis. She feels like she's wandered back into that space where she talked with Orlumis, and she feels like her whole body is full of light, and she can feel the magic and the power in it, and also the care and attention that has gone into this magic. And I think she feels a little bit of the cost of it as well, and is paying attention that way. And so she's sort of hyper aware of all of the elements that go into this kind of magic. And probably half of her is really focused on the sort of otherworldly feeling that she's feeling, and then half of her brain is focused on the technical aspects of what this kind of magic involves.
As she gasps through all of that magic and coming into the moment and seeing and feeling everyone around her, the wave of whatever 80 is feeling slams into her psyche from the bond that you share. But you look up and you see this enormous man, this large earth genasi, exuding a power that Mira would recognize even if she doesn't fully understand every detail of it, kind of looming over her. A very obvious strain on his face from having done the magic. But it is also worth mentioning that her hand is still burned. She still cannot move the fingers of it. It is still blackened to a horrific extent. The hand is still suffering whatever injury she had, even if the rest of her is restored. What do you say or do? Muted. Hello? Did we lose you? Uh-oh.
Oh dear. I think she did actually go make me popcorn. So that
yeah, she went to go make you popcorn.
I'll have popcorn in a minute. I know that we'll have to relay this to her again anyways, so whatever. But the feelings that she would get bounced off of 80 would just be like just a desperation putting faith and hope into this stranger to fix her sister. And then just a lot of excitement as she feels the worst parts of that pain and anguish subside as she sort of comes to.
given that we have lost her, I'm going to say that there are still a great deal of things that Mira is having to process and isn't quite fully here just yet. Oh, maybe she's back.
Hello?
Yes, there you are.
I don't know. My screen went wild. I don't know what happened, so I'm back. All right. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I think Mira looks around and kind of takes everything in for a moment and looks up at Kelisnor and with tears in her eyes, she just nods at him. I don't think she can even speak at this point because she's overwhelmed with the emotion and the huge shift in what has happened in just a mere handful of moments. And also just looking at her hand and seeing that it's still absolutely scorched and being anxious that it's never going to be the same as it was.
Yeah. And I think in that moment, as you look up at Kelisnor, he recognizes that emotional distress, and he lowers himself down onto one knee. You're still obviously looking up, right? Because he's massive. But he lowers himself down to one knee just to be a little bit closer to you. And he moves his hand towards Mira's injured arm. And he doesn't touch it, but he places his hand over top of her arm. It being so large that he doesn't even have to come into contact with her wrist, with his fingers resting upon the surface which she lays. And he just looks at her square in the eyes and says, "It's all right, child. We'll do what we can for you. But I need to know what has happened to you." And you can see that he is still sweating. That magic took something out of him. And he seems surprised by that. He seems distressed at the notion that the evoking of that magic, which he has very likely done many, many times, was so difficult to do this time.
The crystals on the plateau, we saw some people around them, and I just wanted to know. And so...
Who did you see?
People in cloaks. They were far away, so I don't know exactly. They had robes on. I think there was a fire genasi and an earth genasi. That's about all I caught of them, and they disappeared. And I just wanted to know about the magic. It was overpowering. It's like the closer I got, the more overwhelming it was, and I tried to figure out where it was coming from or who it was coming from, and so I just touched one of the crystals and it fused my hand to it.
Who did you feel when you did this?
I'm not completely sure, but I think it was Sombrius.
As you say Sombrius' name, his glowing red eyes go wide. And for a moment, given your proximity to him, you can see there is a slightly darkened area of pupil there. And they dilate for a moment. And he immediately snaps his head up and looks at Terathos. And you hear him say to Terathos, "Purukash?" Terathos looks aghast. Where Kellisnor looks concerned, Terathos looks horrified. Terathos looks immediately angry, stressed, just straight terrified. Kellisnor turns and looks back to Mira, and he says, "I really had hoped you would say something else." His hand that is not over top of her injured arm moves up towards her shoulder, and he tries to give her a comforting squeeze of the shoulder. "I will do everything that I can to help you, but I need you to know that if you have been cursed by the will of Sombrius, only another ascendant may remove such a burden. I am sorry, child, but what has happened to your hand may not necessarily be fixed by mortal means. Sorry."
Do you know why?
He sighs heavily, and he actually stands up, giving her space to sit up. And he kind of takes a step back, and he leans heavily upon the very large anvil. He's still facing all of you, and you can see this heavy weight upon this man's shoulders. As he says, "The Kurakash are practitioners of shadow. They are mortals who have taken the teachings of Sombrius and twisted them to vile circumstance. They believe that only Sombrius's fire is capable of cleansing our world of whatever influence has transpired over the millennia since the Ascendant have receded to their mountain gates. Fortunately, they were birthed here in Kuvalia. We have not yet been able to quench them of their taint. You can tell very clearly that he is distraught at having to talk about this group. Do any of you do?
Do you know anything about them? How many there are, where they stay?
Pelesnor turns and looks to Terathos. Terathos, who is getting his emotions more in check through kind of a teeth-clenching response, says, "If we knew that, I would have crushed them a long time ago." We know that they take people into their fold. They brainwash many with their teachings. We have had some success in rescuing those that have been taken hold by the Kurakash. They have never been the same since. We know that they like to find places of holy power dedicated to the Ascendant that are not Sombrius, and they corrupt them. Not overtly, mind you, but they inflict curses upon those holy places so that those that might find worship or solace in the power of another Ascendant suffer. And unfortunately, it seems you are the latest of their victims. Pelesnor's face kind of darkens and saddens a bit at that statement.
Do you think Mira was targeted because they could tell she was, favored by Orlumis, or do you think it was just a happy accident for them, not for me?
I do not know. We have never been able to understand exactly how they have remained hidden for so long, but given the power of Sombrius and the shadows, it's entirely possible that they know a great many things that we do not. Regardless of that, I am glad to see, and Terathos kind of locks eyes with Mira in this moment. I am glad to see that the restorative magics have at least helped you. Would you allow me to call you Lightbearer? Make a religion check, if you like, to know or try to understand what he means by that.
17.
The one who pays the light bill.
Since Mira has taken up with Orlumis, I feel like that she has tried to, at least to some degree, tried to understand what it means to worship Orlumis, even if she doesn't necessarily do that in the ways of classical worship to Orlumis. There are many different religious sects for all of the different Ascendant, and more than a few of those that worship Orlumis use the term Lightbearer for those that are particularly devout in their following. And I think in this moment, Mira would understand that Terathos is attempting to recognize her faith, which isn't always welcome or normal for the various religions of the world. certainly not where the Imperium hails from. While many of the religions of the Imperium work together for common goals and the common good in general, they often butt heads with each other. Even those that worship the same ascendant can have very, very different views of how that is done. So the fact that Terathos is even asking this kind of implies a little bit more open-mindedness, at least of his particular faith in Vitharion.
Mira looks down for a second and then looks at him and says, I'm not sure that I'm worthy of that honor.
You bear one of Orlumus crystals, do you not? I felt it upon first seeing you when you arrived in the city.
I do.
Well, then you are a light bearer.
Whether you wish to be called that or not,
You are. But if you do not wish it, I will not use that phrase for you again.
It is not. It is not that I don't wish it. I just don't feel quite deserving. I don't feel like I live with the type of dedication that title bestows. And I make a lot of mistakes.
Terathos kind of glances to Kelesnor, and you can see a wry smile on Kelesnor's face as Terathos says,
We all make mistakes. Question only becomes whether or not we learn from them.
I would like to try.
All we can do.
what's 80 doing during this? Not Beth, because I know what Beth's doing because I can see Twitch chat right now. What's 80 doing?
I don't know what you're talking about. 80 is... She's confused about her own feelings here because she knows how special her sister is, and she is annoyed that some sexy dragonborn in a foreign country has to like point that out. And she's also like, she feels kind of proud of Mira for like being told that this title, which she has no idea what it means until it's explained a little bit, is being, you know, associated with her. And when she hears her sister say that she's not worthy of such a title, she's like, yes, you are. Just a lot of, you know, like pumping up her sister in that moment, but just internally.
Which she can feel through the bond, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think more than anything, though, she is just thinking, like, why does this have to be another burden that her sister has to bear? Whether it's, you know, a positive thing or not, it's just, you know, it's just another fucking thing on her plate, and we just want to explore the world and be left alone.
So I feel like as 80 then has kind of retreated a little bit into her own inner thoughts, What is Sisk doing?
I think God's ascendants really are above Sisk's weight class. I think both like intellectually, but also, am I gonna go fight this Sombrius Ascendant ass guy because he messed up Mira's hand? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think we're just kind of blank stare, just trying to take it in.
As you are also taking all of that in, Kelesnor lifts himself up off of the anvil, feeling, a little bit recovered from the difficulties of casting the restorative magics. And he steps forward to Mira, who I'm imagining is still sitting upon the platform with which she had been on. And he looks at her and says, "We may not be able to heal your hand, at least not in the way that you would find use. But if you would allow it, I would like to try. Not through magic per se, but I would like to see what can be done for you to gain use of it. Is that something you would approve of?"
I would greatly appreciate it.
Kelesnor glances to Terathos and just nods. And you sense an unspoken statement there between the two of them, and Kelesnor holds out his hand opposite to Mira's good hand, offering to help her stand. He says, "All of you can go with Terathos. He will take you further into the temple, and we'll see what can be done. Please know that you are welcome here. All of you. Not just because of your friendship with Zaranthra." You notice that he uses her full name. "But also because that is who we are here at this temple." And he kind of just beckons you towards Terathos. Do any of you say or do anything in response to that?
I think Mira sort of bows deeply and looks up at Kelesnor.
For what it's worth, how tall is Mira again?
5'6", 5'7".
He's like 6'4". Kitty cat. He's like 6'4", and so when she, what? What'd you say?
What?
What'd you say?
I said hot. I said hot. I said it.
Those of you that are watching this on VOD, I highly encourage you to watch us live sometime so that you can see the chat and see what I have to experience every Wednesday.
Stop making hot character art if you don't want us to thirst. It is not honestly, our fault for having eyes.
It's really your fault, honestly. Everyone's just so good looking in Ysterra.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, he bows his head in response to her formality, but you get the sense that he is not the person that relies on formality in any sense. He is certainly unlike any high priest or individual of rank in any temple or religion that Mira has ever seen. There's a practicality to him that probably would surprise her, given her history as, an acolyte in all of the various temples that she had tried to find connection to the Ascendant with in her history, in her past. But as you all are escorted from the room, following Terathos.
Oh, shit.
Just realized you weren't muted, Ian?
And y'all are just gonna let your boy sit here like this. I'm over here smacking and crunching and stuff. Damn, I thought we were homies.
I was waiting on you to catch it, my friend. Being, the professional streamer that you are. Terathos escorts you from Helesnor's chamber. And as you leave, certainly 80, probably not Mira, maybe Sisk would notice that Helesnor turns towards the anvil, kneels before it, and begins to pray. He is very clearly a devout individual. And whatever the circumstance is, he's very likely praying for guidance on what to do next. As you all are led out of the chamber, back to the stairs, and you head down into the main level of the temple, you are escorted through the temple, which is very vast. This place is immense. You are led past a number of forges, which appear periodically throughout the various chambers of the temple itself. You see a few prayer rooms. You see a few places of learning, not classrooms in the traditional sense, but more like halls of discussion, where there is no one person that is in a place over any others. Eventually, though, you are led to a different section. Here you find quite a number of individuals, mostly Dragonborn, a good number of Genasi present as well. It is worth reminding you, though, that you still don't see any water Genasi. Even amongst this gathering of 50 or more individuals that are in this very, very large room. There are tables and cots and chairs and desks all throughout the space, and virtually everyone in the space is using this in some degree or other. But another thing that you notice very clearly is that there are a number of people here. Not quite half, but pretty close to half, that all seem to be suffering or dealing with or healing through some kind of significant injury. You see an Air Genasi figure whose leg is decapitated at the knee. And they have a prosthetic in its place that seems to be getting fitted up. You see another individual, Dragonborn, red-scaled, in a very, very large wheelchair, moving about the space. The upper half of their body significantly larger than the lower half, perhaps a birth defect of some kind. And they're wheeling through the space, carrying something in their lap, taking it over to someone else. You see another figure on crutches. Not sure what's happened to them. They look healthy otherwise, but it's very obvious that they cannot walk in the same way that a normal person can. This entire space seems to be set up for people that are going through healing, recovering, learning how to move again. As you are taken through this, and led through it all and seeing all of these people in these circumstances. I'm going to start with Mira. What does she feel in seeing all of this?
I think she finally understands what Kelisnor meant by healing and is a little bit sad. But also I think she is fascinated by the people around and the ways that they're finding help here. And so I think she looks around to see if there's someone she could maybe talk to later about their experience, and just kind of wonders about the other people who are here in this room.
Give me an insight check.
$17.
The 17, it becomes immediately apparent to Mira that very few of the people here are wearing any kind of holy symbol. But those that are myriad. They come from all different religions. And I think that maybe surprises her a little bit. But of note, she sees one man, somewhere in his maybe late 20s, early 30s, very short cropped brown hair, and he has a holy symbol around his neck, the medallion of which is hollowed out, well, the center of it is hollowed out in the shape of a diamond, and the metal that surrounds that diamond is a pair of wings. And she would recognize a holy symbol to Aeon, another of the Ascendant dedicated to light. And I think that would draw her attention the most as such a figure. What about 80? I'm very curious what 80 experiences as she feels all manner of emotions from these people. Some of them are elated at what is happening. Others are in various levels of grief. Some are very distraught by the circumstances that they are having to deal with. There is no end to the variety of emotions for the people that are undergoing this experience.
I mean, she certainly feels it all. And I think that it kind of gnaws at her a little bit, knowing what Mira was told. And I think she sees a lot of beauty in this space that allows healing and recuperation, even if it's difficult. I don't think she's a stranger to feeling grief rolling off of people any time of day in any place, because everyone, is going through life differently. So I think that feeling it concentrated isn't necessarily a big deal. I just think she's now tying Mira to all of it and sort of jumping ahead and wondering, how will she feel in this place? And, what would her experience be like? Is she going to be okay with things? Is it going to feel like an incredible loss? Is it, how do we make this right for her? And it's really all coming from a place of like just curiosity and love.
Sure. What's Sisk's passive perception? Or, if you would like, you could go ahead and roll a perception check if you think Sisk would be looking around at things more actively.
I think so. I don't think they're really... If it's about people, I don't think they're really paying attention to the people. But definitely, like, what's going on and stuff. I'm gonna roll because I want to have a good time. My passive is 16, so let's see how much worse I can get. Nat 20 for 26.
Oh, shit. Nice.
The reverse of what I thought.
The
thing worked, Ian. The thing worked.
the cleansing was a success. And yet we haven't yet seen what Ian is going to roll.
Nah, I'm vibing today. I'm part of the audience today. I'm loving this.
Dude. Sisk is immediately drawn to the sight of several objects of artifice. Mechanical objects that are occasionally supplemented by minor magics to help with those that have either lost a limb or have not, or have lost the use of a limb. I think most notably, she would spot that the woman whose leg had been, basically removed at the knee, that the prosthetic that was being attached had articulation in the ankle and the foot, and was not just a simple stump egg attachment, that there's engineering that is taking place there. And so I think that Sisk is immediately drawn to that sight, and that's not the only person that is benefiting. The wheelchair is a marvel of engineering in its own right. How does Sisk react to all of this?
I think I'm impressed. I'm like, ooh, this is nice. I'm gonna take a mental note for later. That person who said that they like Tig. I'm like, I think they know what they're talking about. I have a lot more respect for what's going on here. I'm pumped. I forgot that Mira got hurt. I'm having a great time. Great day.
Glorious. As you are led through this space and see all of this, eventually Terathos, who very frequently gets referred to as Shugo by most of the people that he interacts with walking through the space, you come to understand that Shugo is very likely a title, and his name is Terathos. Doesn't take a great deal of understanding to pick up on that. And as you are led through the space, you eventually are led to a very large table, padded on the top, and Terathos beckons Mira to sit. A number of other individuals come over as well that you are introduced to. You come to understand that while many of the people here are very likely followers of Vitharion to some degree or another, may or may not be part of the temple even. No one is immediately going the route of trying to use healing magic or anything like that. They very cautiously, not circumspectly, but with care, start peppering Mira with questions about her hand and the injury and what caused it, and asking her to try and move things while they make efforts to understand the extent of the injury. This whole process is going to take considerable amount of time. Hours are spent in this room. Would Mira sit through all of that? And how would Mira respond to the circumstances of it?
I think she would sit through all of it. I think I don't want to say that she feels like this is her punishment for doing something stupid, but like I think she thinks like this is part of the consequence, right? I have to talk about this. I have to share the information I have. I don't get to get out of this because I don't want to, or I don't feel good, or I'm tired, right? I think she very much feels the weight of this day and the amount that she has made other people go out of their way to help her, that she won't let herself excuse herself from this.
What about 80 and Sisk? You guys sit through it all? You do anything?
80 would stick with her the whole time. I think the minute they started asking her questions, she'd get really protective. I think she would defer to Mira to guide things because it's, her situation. But I think in those moments when she could feel Mira leaning towards the regret or, making herself feel shitty about choices, I think she would, place a hand on her shoulder or give her like a nudge or something. And I think that like, if there were moments when she seemed exhausted, I think it, 80 would pipe up and just say like, can she have a minute, please, before we continue?
Yeah.
Respectfully, because obviously this is a place where, she is a guest, they are all guests, and she really appreciates what they're doing and what they could do for Mira. But I think that, her priority is protecting her people, and Mira's her number one person, so.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility as well. Matter of fact, I think it's probably apparent, given 80's gift, that she would recognize that all of the people that are trying to help Mira are caring individuals, right? Everyone's emotions attached to the circumstance are genuine. There is no one present that is not taking this seriously. So I'm sure that also has an effect throughout it as well. But also most everyone is very, very patient through it. If you say something and then you catch yourself feeling that, you said that a little bit harsher than you really intended it to be or anything like that, no one seems to really bat an eye at it. Maybe Mira.
I think that, I think that feels very unique to 80 because she's learned a lot about people, and that feelings don't necessarily align with what is said and done. Not even in a, deceitful sort of way, but just, you know when to speak to your true emotions and when to, dial things back. So to have folks here that are so genuine, and she's not getting, a cover up to, make things seem lighter. That's very rare, and it doesn't make her feel suspicious, but she's very aware of the difference in this space and in everyone that she's seen here and their interesting, respectful nature. But it's painting a really fascinating picture for her.
Yeah. And what is Sisk doing?
I think once this realizes that this is going to be like a little bit of a process, that, well, physiotherapy basically, they're going to be like, I gotta go, I want to go update everyone. Maybe I'll get someone to come drop by, bring you something to do, some snacks if they're allowed in here. But I want to go and update Bren ideally. I'm assuming that whatever he's doing will meet at the ship. So I'm gonna start heading back.
Okay. You depart and head back to the ship. I'm assuming you're taking Tig with you.
Yeah, unless you ladies would like Tig to hang out, but
I guess
no,
Tig's
that's okay. You can take him back.
That's fine, I guess. I'll take Tig back.
There's a moment where Tig kind of lingers, standing near to Mira, and like looking at Sisk, and like hesitant to go with Sisk. But
hey,
then
if you want to hang out,
no, then follows. It's
okay.
it only happens for a fraction of a second there. Yeah, it takes you a good bit of time to get back to the airship, and the twins are obviously going to be occupied for a good bit. Ian, I need for you to roll a d20 for me.
No. Okay, no, here we go.
I mean, you can choose not to, but you may not like the result.
Now, here we go. Woo! Ah, that hurt. Hell yeah, just what I intended. Kay took all of my juices.
Oh, DD dice.
This fucking sucks.
Sisk arrives back at the airship. Everyone else is present. Dove and family, Oriana. Interesting note, there are no onlookers. At this point, it is late afternoon by this point, because you guys have been gone for the vast majority of the day. You're probably just a few hours before sun's set. But in every previous day, practically till sun's set, there was onlookers. There's no one there now. Phelan will... There's a brief discussion that you have with Phelan, where Phelan indicates...
Are Phelan and I the B team? We got Captain and Ren, and then I'm... It's me and Phelan. We're the B team? No?
I don't know what that means, but Phelan talks to Sisk a little bit. No, I really don't. And seems to be a little bit frustrated that they had to be kind of mean to folks today, because Bren had ordered them to make sure that there weren't any more looky-loos.
Oh, jeez.
Just realized what Monster was doing. That's great. Before you can get kind of too in-depth with it, however, I am curious, Ian, what form of animal is Bren in? Because I'm assuming that he used animal forms to make the absolute utmost haste at returning to the ship. What form is Bren in as he bursts onto the deck of the ship, finding
I think it's
Sisk and Phelan?
It's Bear Bren, because like that was like the only thing that he could think of at the moment. He's just like, I need to get back. He just starts bounding as best he can.
So Bren just bounds up the side of the ship and onto the deck. Now, bear in mind, you can speak now. 2024 edition druids can speak in their wild shape forms. Does Bren maintain his bear form, or does he revert to his normal form as he bursts onto the deck of the ship to find Sisk and Phelan standing there?
Now that you've given me that gem, of course I'm going to stay in bear form and just talk to everyone. Bren jumps on the boat as best he can, and it's kind of like this tumbling bit, this big fluffy brown bear, and then he kind of Winnie the Pooh sits there, and then he stands up like on his bare legs, like almost. He's just like, okay, it's brown bear, big brown bear. Okay, Ren, me, the stones cave, went in chasing someone, big red circle, huge. They're a cult. Why do we always find cults? Ren is in a cage, in with the cult.
Phelan just like starts dragging, and then Tig helps drag a barrel of water over to Bren.
He's sploosh, full bear head, bubbles. Pops his head back up and he goes, okay. Still bear form. Ren and I went to go see what the hooded cloaked people were about, and we went to the stone. We did not touch the stone. I feel like we probably should have touched the stone. There was one guy cloaked. We chased him, kind of followed him into a cavern. Went into the cavern. Excuse me. Went into the cavern. There was more cloaked people. They were chanting around this big, giant, red, flaming circle thing. We were made. Huge cage around Ren. Couldn't get her out. I think it's a cult. I think it's to some ascendant that may have hurt Mira. I don't know who. It's a lot of fire, though. There's a ton of red fire. Have you guys noticed that there's no water genasies around here?
Phelan just has this like massive look of confusion on their face as you just randomly blurt out water genasi as they are trying to process everything else that you said. Kay, I'm going to give it to you that Sisk would probably immediately put two and two together, understanding what was mentioned earlier about the Kurakash, and piece that together easily enough because Sisk is a smart person. So I'll give you first. Sisk is a smart person. They're an artificer.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I was like, is that my dump stat?
No. The only person, the only PC in the group on the ship that is technically smarter is Mira, and not by that much. So
Sisk maintains the engine like actively.
So I think Sisk quickly puts it together, given that Bren does not have that knowledge about the Kurakash. So what does Sisk do in this moment then?
Okay. How much context can you take right now? Because I can put some pieces together. Mira tried to cast Cure Wounds on herself. And
well, just as a reminder, Bren was there for that. Bren was the one that had ordered you guys to go to the temple.
Okay, so we went to the temple.
But he didn't indicate which temple. He was leaving that up to you guys.
That was a choice for me. We went to the temple of Ysterra, the dragon one of the forge. Okay. It seemed to work pretty well. They weren't able to completely, heal Mira's hand, but they were able to rouse her to consciousness. I think that whatever was making her kind of slow has now been resolved. She was really out of it. But okay, so the priest was saying this is probably from the cult of Sombrius, what was that K word again?
Urakash.
Kurakash, thank you. I should have said it out loud earlier. So the Kurakash are what they're called. They're like the followers. They usually come to like basically taint what the other ascendants will make. So apparently those crystal place is all about Orlumis. So of course Mira was drawn to it, but something about the Sombrians cursed her, so they can't completely remove the curse.
Wait. The crystals are a monument to Orlumis? And when she touched it, could this cult be trying to corrupt a symbol of Orlumis because it could be the polar opposite of what they're trying to do? Are we in another Ascended fight, Sisk?
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking you were punching above our weight belt.
She's like, I'm so tired of this. Okay.
Phelan, as you plop down on your bare butt, Phelan just steps over and like grabs onto your massive furry arm, and just says, "Okay, but what the fuck happened with Ren?"
I told you, Ren is strapped with the cult apparently in a cage.
Ren, the one who could kill any of us with a look.
I trust me, I'm just as surprised as you are. Yes.
She sacrificed herself?
Feels like it.
That doesn't seem like Ren.
I was willing to do things, and they turned and they looked at me like this. They were like, "Run!" And it was just scary, so I had to run. I didn't really have to. I had a kind of a plan.
That feels like Ren. Okay, so rescue mission. Then I'm assuming, Captain.
Yeah, 100%. Also, you guys need to realize that there's, I think it's strong magical energy down there. Like they are summoning something.
So we need the twins
now. Yeah, unfortunately.
Great.
We're gonna have to run into town and then run all the way back here.
Oh, falls on his bare back. I thought he was here. I thought they were here.
You rest. Recover yourself. What?
No, me.
No.
The big tired bear.
Captain,
I just came back too.
You didn't run. Why didn't you have Tig carry you? Just curious. Like, Tig can literally carry you everywhere you want, and you have. Anyway, I will go into town.
Was a feature.
I will, Sisk, unless you want to go and retrieve the twins, I will go and do that.
I think I would really appreciate that.
Temple of Ysterra.
Let's go B team. Ooh.
Oh, fuck you. And they just like leap off of the side of the ship. And unlike when Ren does it, you hear a thud, thud. Oh, fuck me. And as they pick themselves up off of the ground and then take off running as quick as they can.
I'm going to remember that for later.
I mean, Phelan is nowhere near as cool as Ren. But they're trying. They're trying.
Cool. I assume like in this moment, like Sis gives me the detailed breakdown, and then I also give like the detailed breakdown about the runes across the cave, and that they go deeper down into a cavern, and they're all like, that's where the magical energy. Yeah. Cool.
So you guys will be able to accomplish a short rest during this time. For what it's worth, Ian, make sure that you had marked off your additional use of your wild shape. I don't know if you had used it. I don't know how well you had kept everything from the previous session, but all of that stuff still holds true from any resources that you had spent. But you can get anything back from a short rest that you need. To catch things up for the twins, this is a very lengthy process. It's also not a process that is going to be complete in one day. However, this first part of the process seems to be extremely important, as the healers that are attempting to properly diagnose Mira, what her capabilities are, what things that, how well she is handling the circumstance. They're going through a lot with all of that. And I'm sure to some degree it is a little bit exhausting to deal with. But you don't have a lot of time to really change that circumstance, as about, we'll say, 2 hours or so after Sisk's departure, Phelan bursts into the room, being led by another member of the temple. You can tell very clearly that they are also ridiculously out of breath. Not quite as, bombastically out of breath as maybe Bren was, because, they weren't in a bear form for it all. But they burst into this chamber. There's a moment where Terathos seems to be a little bit, reactionary, on guard at the urgency with which Phelan, comes running over to the two of you and immediately runs up to Mira. Everyone starts moving back away as Phelan, very out of breath, looks at you and says,
"We have to go. We have to return to the airship as quickly as possible. Bren has returned, and apparently Ren has been taken prisoner by a bunch of cultists known as the Kukash or something like that."
What?
That's all that I know at this point. We need to mount a rescue.
And before the rest of you, or before any more response there, Terathos kind of steps forward and says,
"Did you mean the Kurakash?"
Phelan just kind of looks over and just nods. Terathos turns and looks back to the two of you, Adi and Mira, who, by the way, he has not been there the entire time, but he has been with you both quite a lot. But he has also been moving throughout the room and checking on other people and such like that. But in this circumstance, he is now standing back with the both of you. And he says very clearly, mostly kind of pointedly to Mira more so than Adi, says,
"If the Kuragash are involved in anything related to taking someone, then I am now involved too."
Deb, you're being very quiet. I'm going to let you... What would Mira do?
I think Mira would just sort of look around and be like, Am I ready to leave yet? I thought that this was going to take time, and I just don't know that I can be of any help right now.
Terathos kind of just... I'm assuming that was directed to Terathos, and Terathos just kind of fixes her with his eyes.
If you do not wish to go and help your friend, then you can stay. But I promise you, you will regret it. It will dwell in your mind if you let your handicap hold you back. It will always hold you back.
She gives a sort of sharp nod.
Does Adi do anything at this?
Adi just has been along for the ride today. A lot of things have happened, and she's honestly content to be directed to the next place, because this has been an exhausting day for her, and she can only imagine how exhausting then for Mira. But if these people who have been so helpful and forthright with their emotions, I think that she trusts that if this new friend of theirs is concerned and says we have to go, then we have to go. And obviously, it being Ren, she's also concerned for her, her friend. But I think the minute, everyone starts standing up and freaking out, she would go along with.
Okay. Just for narrative purposes here, and the fact that we are running a little bit shorter on time, I would like to ask. Terathos immediately springs into action, right? Like, starts issuing orders to a few people. Some horses are brought around from the temple's stables. 3 of them. I think there would be also the question of if other horses might be needed for your friend Sisk. Can the metal man even ride a horse? Comments like that are suggested. How many horses do you think you guys would request, given that Terathos is coming?
Is a they, them.
Yes, that is true. Thank you.
And they can run for days.
But can they ride?
So, hey.
So again, the question to the twins: how many horses do you all think you get Terathos to bring? One of you has to make that decision, because Terathos does not have a full comprehension about who all would be going on this adventure to rescue Ren.
6?
Yeah, how many people can fit on a horse at once? Like,
at most
3?
2.
I know, I'm just kidding. 6? Sure.
Yeah.
6 horses?
6.
Okay. I'm curious, would Mira even try to ride a horse by herself? Or
No, absolutely not.
My apologies. There's a little bit of a cat argument taking place. Balin would, offer Mira up onto the horse behind them, and they would take the reins easily enough. Terathos is more than capable of leading the other horses on long tethers. 80 would have her own horse, and you all move quickly through the city. It is worth mentioning that as you all exit the temple, there isn't a great deal of sun's light left. And so the protesters are still present. You see that scene. You all end up riding kind of through the protesters a bit, but no one is harmed. Everyone gets out of the way. There's still that strange Kuvalian notion of like respect, even to people you don't like, sort of thing happening. But you all do kind of burst through that lot, and with 80 and Phelan kind of taking the lead, you all head to the airship at speed. Upon arrival at the airship, I'm assuming at this point Bren is no longer in bear form, because I feel like his time limit probably would have been reached.
Yeah. He's
at
back
the very
to
least.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion while Phelan is gone, by the way, with Oriana and the family, and who should go to rescue Ren and who should not, who should stay with the ship. Of course, Taryn wants to go and rescue Ren, but Dove and Nora put a pretty quick stop to that. Oriana is very uncertain about whether or not she could help in such a circumstance, but she's willing to go, if anything, for her expertise in magic, even though she is not really the sort that... She's not a combat mage, and she knows that.
I think in this particular moment, Bren's going to be like, no, it's just going to be like, you all stay here. Keep everything as normal as possible, be safe, and just kind of be ready for us to return. We don't know what state Ren is in. They seemed fine when I left, but we don't know what happened. So just kind of prepare yourself for that. Well, we'll take care of this like normal. Okay.
As the rest of the group, with Terathos and a bunch of horses in tow, arrives, you all have any... Do you want to roleplay out this moment? Or do you have any preparations that you think that you would make before Bren starts leading everyone west or east in search of where Ren had been taken prisoner?
I think when they approach, Bren gives the twins the rundown, similar to what he did for Sis, probably with better clarity now that he's kind of like rested a small bit and he's calmed down. In addition to that, he looks at the twins and he goes, could you both please do me a favor? If you are going to go in and do fun things or what you think is fun things in town, please remember Oriana, please.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I'm assuming you did that without Oriana's presence.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. She had a pretty dress and
fuck.
everything. Like, she was ready to go. Like, it was heartbreaking. Please don't let me do that, or like have me go through that again.
Okay.
Okay.
Shit.
That's it. Like, just remember it. This is not a moment of like reprimand or anything. Just remember it. It's fine. Okay.
There's a fair bit of confusion on Terathos' face at that exchange. Like, there's definitely something that Terathos is missing, and definitely not something Terathos wants to know more about.
That's fine. But
Terathos,
that was it. Yeah.
Terathos, during all of that exchange, does introduce himself to Bren, by the way, and he introduces himself as Shugo Terathos of the Temple of Itharion. And as you're going through all of the rundown of what happened, he suggests that we actually start riding immediately, and the discussions can take place whilst riding, even if raised voices are necessary. Stealth is not our ally. Speed is our ally. I need for all of you, please, to give an insight check as well.
Would this utilize 80's advantage?
Yes. Was that a nat 1 or a 5, Deb?
It was a 5.
Hey, double digits, Ian.
I got an 8.
An 8.
12.
Wow, pretty good on a 5.
22.
22, and what did Bren get?
17.
Okay. Bren and 80 are able to kind of suss out that Terathos is definitely hyper concerned about Bren's well-being. And a few of the things that he says kind of imply that you don't have much time to rescue her. That the Kurakash are a horribly an awful group of cultists, and as much as you might try to allay that fear that they are expressing, because of how amazing Ren is, it does not help. Like, Kurakash seems to, or Terathos seems to imply that the Kurakash are capable of breaking even the strongest of wills. And so, as you all proceed, he does also kind of talk a bit about where you're going. I'm assuming Bran kind of details the mine and all of that. And Terathos starts mentioning to all of you about how this area has always been a place of magic, one of the many places of magic in Kuvalia. The mines that you are going to were a mithril mine that had fallen under, had been unstable from before. That whatever magical auras of this area there are, they made it very difficult to maintain stability in the mine itself. And so after several accidents, the mine had been abandoned. And so given that, I will allow for Mira and Sisk to both roll Arcana checks, please.
I am going to... Can I cast guidance on myself?
Sure.
And also... Yes. And then I'm also going to use one of my advantages, please.
You can do that.
All right. Arcana. I just rolled 1 to start.
You look at shithead. We gotta leave Galahad alone. You hear me? You leave him alone.
Okay, that's better. I got a 25.
Cool. Okay.
And I got a 22.
Nice. Both of you are able to ascertain or come to understand, at least as far as you think, that it's very likely, given how the ship was flying and how you know, the ship follows the ley lines that exist throughout the world, right? And you can divert from those ley lines if you expend enough of your own magic to allow the ship to maintain course and flight and power through the Arcanic engine to divert off of the ley lines. But the Arcanic engine itself utilizes the ley lines in order to give the airship flight. And you start to kind of piece together that this area of Kuvalia is very likely a convergence of ley lines. The power of which is probably quite astounding. And you don't have a whole lot of time to contemplate that, but it's definitely something worth remembering so that later you might be able to contemplate it. As you all continue to ride at speed, you eventually are led nearer and nearer to the mineshaft entrance. Would Bren offer up any insight as to an approach for this? Or just go in as fast as possible? Because Terathos is very much the type to kick down a door.
So I think he does provide insight compared to like what him and Ren did last time. But I think being that when him and Ren went through, it was just kind of, they were able to get pretty close. I think kicking down the door right now is the move, unless somebody says something otherwise.
Are we going in hot? Are we being kind to these people? Are we going to try to talk our way in? Or are we just fighting, grabbing Ren and coming out? Like,
Sisk, I don't know.
If you actually say, are we being kind to these people? Terathos actively snorts lightning.
Ooh.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Okay.
And would indicate pretty clearly, you don't have to kill them, but you don't have to be kind either.
That tracks. Yeah, I actually agree with that. Yeah. But I don't know. Like I maybe saw a very small fraction of what they could do, and even that small fraction was extremely terrifying.
For what it's worth, it has also now, by this point, been about 4 hours since you saw Ren. Maybe even 5. The suns have set behind you.
Very hot.
The suns have set behind you. The moons are in the sky. Oh, and speaking of the moons, Ian, you need to make a wisdom saving throw. Or Bren, rather. Ian, make a wisdom saving throw.
I choose to fail.
Bren, however, can make a wisdom saving throw.
Okay, cool. This is, hey, chat, this is where we find out that I'm a werewolf. No.
Yes, Ian is actually a werewolf. That is confirmed. Bren, however, is just a druid.
Just a druid. Okay, cool. So 23. 23. I get advantage on wisdom saving throws.
Yep. As you are approaching, and I'll go ahead and actually put this art up. As you are approaching the mines, and all of you can see that red glow coming from the carved out section of the hill by which this mine is formed from. As that red aura illuminates and comes into visibility for Bren, there's a moment where he sees the 3 red moons in the sky once again. He looks up at the sky and sees all 3 moons as normal, as expected. But in his mind's eye, he is still reminded of the 3 red moons. You approach the mine shaft. Terathos immediately leaps off of the horse. I'm assuming the rest of you follow suit. Yeah. As you dismount, do any of you do any preparative things following Terathos, who is very much leading the way into this chamber?
I think 80 would, in a moment of panic, would cast invisibility on herself and Mira, if possible.
Sure.
Like, not even realizing, she doesn't ask, she just sort of like puts her hand on Mira's shoulder and they just become invisible. And it's after the fact that she's like, oh, yeah, okay, I think that's an okay thing that I just did.
I mean, I'm assuming you weren't trying to make it a secret action or anything. Like,
no,
yeah,
no, it's just there are fucking people here and stuff's been bad, and so I don't know, I don't want to be seen.
But others would hear you casting it. Everybody is able to spot the 2 of you as you immediately go invisible. Just make note of it, that the 2 of you are invisible and you are maintaining concentration on that. Deb, what does Mira do?
Mira knows now that trying to prepare any spells or cast any spells is gonna drop the invisibility, so she won't bother with any of that. I think she takes the Heart of Orlumis out of her pocket.
I would allow a simultaneous action there, where Mira like spots 80 doing that, and very quickly before the magic of the invisibility would take hold, if you had a buff spell you wanted to cast, or other spell that you wanted to cast, I would let you do that, because I don't think that 80 would be able to get away with just casting magic in Mira's presence and Mira not noticing it happening.
I think I will cast... I'm just gonna cast a quick resistance on pretty much everybody before she, if that's okay.
Isn't it single target?
Yeah, but since it's a cantrip, can I do...
Does it require concentration?
Does it require concentration?
Because if it does, you can only target one person.
Okay. Then I will. I think I will hit Bren with a resistance, just because I think he's going to be going in quickly, and so I would want him to have that.
Before I get to you, Bren, then I will state that as Terathos dismounts and retrieves a very large two-handed hammer from the saddlebags upon his horse, when he pulls the hammer into his hand, he utters his own prayer, and you see this suit of half-plate armor just wrap around his body, magically summoned into place. And as that happens, all of you can feel this aura of confidence waft into you. Mechanically speaking, Terathos is a paladin. And as long as you...
I was just about to say, I was like, ooh, a paladin.
As long as you remain within 20 feet of him, you will gain benefits from his aura.
I will... Oh, no. I was going to cast Heroism for a second, but it only lasts a minute. I don't think it's going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, wait a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to do, though?
I'm a bad bard, so I have no buffs. So...
You have Bardic Inspiration, right? Doesn't that last 10 minutes?
Yeah,
you could
10 minutes.
You could preemptively give someone a Bardic Inspiration, as long as it isn't 80 or Mira, because they disappeared, so you can't see them.
Yeah. I'll give it to myself. No, I can't. I'll give it to Bren.
Everybody's buffing Bren.
Yeah.
He's like, what? I know what this means. Okay.
And does Bren do anything in particular?
I feel like I don't need to. Everybody's just been like, here you go, buddy. Fuck. No, let's go.
Okay. For what it's worth, you do see Phelan, who is actually wearing light armor, some leather armor, that they had gotten whilst you guys were still on the ship, does pull out a short sword and seems to he does this thing with they do this thing with their hand where they run through the somatic components of magic, but they don't finish it, as if they're practicing and preparing a spell, getting it ready, making sure that they're prepared for whatever endeavor is going to happen. And all of you start descending into the mine shaft. You move quickly. You can hear the sounds of chanting taking place further in. And for Bren, all of this is a horrifying reminder of the events that had happened mere hours ago. You start twisting through the passageway very, very quickly, running at pace with Terathos leading the way. And as you descend into that chamber, all of you round one corner where you see before you the open space of the chamber that Bren had described before, a handful of cultists present. But Bren, more importantly, you step into the space where Ren had been trapped within the force cage, and that is not there. There is no sign of Ren. There is no sign of the force cage. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session, ladies and gentlemen.
Fucking meat's back on the menu, boys. Like, come on. This is fucking, like...